How's everybody doing? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody doing? Let me go ahead and check these chats real quick. What's going on, Q Wilson? What's going on, sir? What's going on? You know what I'm saying? What's going on, Callie Jane? How you doing? The greatest producer in the world, Just Ask Shar. Before everybody gets in, we gonna play some stuff. What's going on, Shar? Yeah, man, we gonna take a deep dive into this. We gonna make it intellectual in here, right? Yeah, what's going on, Shy? So we're gonna play a couple of tracks here as people come in. I'm gonna go ahead. If you say anything in the chat, I'm gonna bring your comments up on the screen. Yeah, let's get into it. Let me go ahead and bring up these tunes, and y'all enjoy yourself.
No.1
Dreams of you are so fine, so fine. Since I woke up, baby, God has healed my heart. And darling, your love is just like music. You and me are meant to be. Come share your song with me, sweet melody. Just like music, just like a song. to be. Oh, baby, come share your love with me in harmony. And darling, your love is just like music. Ow! Music, just like music. And darling, your love is just like music. You and me are meant to be. Music. Come share your song with me, sweet melody. Just like music. Breathe a song and just be. Music. Oh, baby, come share your love with me in harmony. And darling, your love is just like music. Music, just like music. Just like music. You and me are meant to be. I'll go crazy. Come share your song with me, sweet melody. Oh, if something ever happened to my music, oh, just like you.
All right, everybody. How we doing today? How we doing today? Hope y'all like that intro right there. You know what I'm saying? Had to find that Marvin Gaye remix. Can't play Marvin directly how it is because YouTube will smite me. All right, so I hope y'all enjoyed them tunes as we was coming in. As you're coming in, how's your evenings? How's your week? You got one more day before it's Friday out here in these streets. Now, what I wanted to do here is bring it back in. Let me bring this in the right way. Today we're going to be talking about the Empress, the Concubine, and the Courtesan. Okay, so winter is not coming. All of those people that prognosticated that winter is coming because women could not be on OnlyFans and doing whatever they were doing to make their money, that has gone away. So sit in the corner and hold your L. But that was about money, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to talk about the dynamics between men and women throughout the ages. We're going to talk about the courtesan specifically and the concubine on the back end of that. I'm going to reverse the order here. But the reason why the Empress, the concubine, and the courtesan is the title is because this is really it's a lot to do with the dynamic and the mindset of men. Okay, these women shall always exist in a man's psyche and in his life. Is just at one point in time when society was building itself, they existed all at once and it was acceptable by men and women alike. But this was acceptable by men that were able to do the very basics, and that was P to the second power times P to the fourth power equals P. Yeah, we'll get into that in a second also. So anyway, let me break this down and let's get into it. Let's get right into it. And Google is your friend. Got a little allergic reaction to some things. Bear with me for me sounding a little nasally here. But I wanted to get this out because I got things to do. Life is life. But I want to bring you guys some content on a regular. Since I'm still on my little hiatus, the 1/3 show will be back after the first week of September. So let's get into it, shall we? I'm saying. What's going on, Queen? You just missed me over here rocking, sis. You know, we was rocking to some Marvin. All right, so let's get into it. Now, this right here is very interesting. This is a photo that I found. There's a lot of photos that I found, but I want to give visual aids to people, you know what I'm saying, so they understand. What is a courtesan? What is her purpose? What does she do? What does she look like? All right. Now, if you notice that the courtesan is standing there, but the courtesan is either receiving a letter or passing a letter. A lot of men right now are complaining of men in power and so forth and dynamics that whenever you see a powerful man getting quote unquote canceled or exposed or outed, it's because he was dealing with a high level or a high priced escort, call them thought, you can call them whatever you want, but actually they're called courtesans. All right. Now, don't get it twisted with the ones that are on the corner, the ones that are at the cat house, nothing like that. We're talking about when we're looking at society, we're judging these things like your superheads of the world. The guy PJ Washington, the woman that he's dealing with, the Amber Roses, the you know what I'm saying, the Kim Kardashian dynamic is a little bit different with that, but I'll explain that in a second. Your Amber Roses of the worlds, you know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Actually, Nicki Minaj and Cardi B at one point in time. J-Lo is another one. Madonna and so forth and so have you. Okay. So we're going to talk about the dynamic. Yep, that's the Renaissance period. So we're going to talk about this dynamic. Now, I'm going to bring this in for you guys. What's going on, Joe? What's going on, Joe? Salute to you. Welcome. And then as you come in, please like and share the stream as you come in. It will be greatly appreciated. It will be greatly appreciated. It will be greatly appreciated. Now, I'm on Wikipedia. You know what I'm saying? Everybody uses Wikipedia. You know what I mean? You can add things, subtract things, but for the most part, you can take it with it will. And if I'm not saying anything right, or if you have better information, my mods, feel free to drop that in the chat. I don't know everything. I'm just going off of this. These are my random thoughts, and it's about what I've been seeing and what's going on. Courtesans in modern usage is the eponym of kept mistress or prostitute, particularly one with wealth, power, or influential clients. Okay. So particularly one with wealth, powerful, or influential clients. Right? These Instagram models, such and such, flying to Dubai to be with these sultans or this Arab money, and they agree to do whatever they're going to do with these chicks and give them a whole bunch of money in a bag and all of this other stuff. So this stuff still goes on in modern day, and it's actually coming back. It's actually coming back. The OnlyFans model showed you that's what happens. Not everybody can be on OnlyFans. The ones that were at the top of the top 1% of those women that are earning that amount of money, okay, they are courtesans. Okay, so the term historically referred to as courter, a person who attended the court of a monarch or other powerful person. Okay. So this is their examples of it. I'll screenshot it right there, right? So that is the historical reference, right? Okay. In feudal society, the court was was the center of government as well as residence of the monarch. So what does this mean, right? So as I keep reading, you'll understand. And we're talking about, we're talking about 14th, 15th, 6th century, but it still holds today. As well as the residence of the monarch and social and political life were often completely mixed together. Prior to the Renaissance, courtesans served to convey information to visiting dignitaries when servants could not be trusted. So what this means is that a courtesan, a woman of society, her job was to convey messages to dignitaries, mainly men, men of power and influence. These women were brought up, these women were kept, these women were taught the fine arts. They were able to sing, they walked with grace, they did certain things, but their job was to disarm or to get something to come across, or a deal, or some type of diplomacy. A solution is met between two men by using what? A courtesan. The courtesan does what? Delilah was a courtesan to Samson. When servants could not be trusted in Renaissance Europe, quarters played an extremely important role in upper class society, as it was customary during the time for royal couples to lead separate lives, commonly marrying simply to preserve bloodlines and to secure political alliances. Men and women would often seek gratification and companionship from people living at the court. In fact, the verb to court originally meant to be or reside at court, and later became and later came to mean to behave as a courter, and then courtship, or to play amorous attention to somebody. When you courting somebody, how they would say in the South. And this is why I wanted to make this abundantly clear for a lot of people that are listening to this. Marriage was never about love. It was about building of wealth, lineage, and bloodline on both sides of the spectrum, so both families can come together. So the courtier was actually dealing with the duchess and the women, and the courtesan was dealing with the men of power and influence. The women had power and influence then too. And they were not dukes. They were there. They dressed a certain way. For y'all that sitting in the chat, they had Chelsea boots before Chelsea boots. All right. So what I mean by this, and what I'm basically talking about is what Queen of South said. The movies about courtesan, dangerous liaisons to Valmont, memorizes Geisha. Yep, there you go. See, I love my mods in the chat. I'm gonna leave that up while I continue to read this. Okay. So one type of courtesan was known in Italy as the Cortana Ansetta. That's what I'm saying is right. I'm nasally, so right. Or the honest courtesan, who was cast as an intellectual. Another was the courtigan de la lume, a lower class of courtesan. The former was the sort most often romanticized and treated more or less equal to women of the nobility. So these two levels, now we're talking about Italy. One was one with grace and power, and you could have a conversation, and her sensuality and her sexuality, and you had to pay a lot. And she had the pick. She got to pick who she dealt with or who her customers were. Where you have the lower class, which was, there's some hoes in this house. If you see them, point them out. That's what you had. Now, albeit, and I'm skipping ahead, We're talking about Italy, Roman Empire. We're talking about Britannia. We're talking about Britain. We're talking about the 13 colonies. We're talking about America. So America is built on the foundations of these civilizations previous to the fact. As primary employment, courtesans from non-wealthy backgrounds provided charming companionship for extended periods, no matter what their own feelings or commitments might have been at the time, and sometimes had to be prepared to do so on short notice. They were also subject to lower social status and often religious disapproval because of the immoral aspects of their profession and their reliance upon courtesanry as a primary source of income. Basically, prostitution. Instead of calling them prostitutes, instead of calling them hoes and whores, they were called courtesans. But now they're called sex workers. And there's this big moral discussion between religion and all of this other stuff. Even though we have seen all of these pastors, preachers, Hebrew, Israelite, NOI, NOA, Hotep for pussy, let me open up my conscious mind and these conscious glands and the pineal gland, you know what I'm saying? And you can astral plane walk right into the whole house, right? The reason why we're having this discussion now is because everything comes back full circle. In cases like this, courtesans was solely dependent on her behavior or benefactors financially, making her valuable. Coral pearl. This is one right here. An English courtesan of the French demeude who became most well known during the period of the Second French Empire. It was the 1800s. Okay. So she's a famous courtesan, like she's in the annals of history. Okay. Often courtesans serving in a capacity began their careers as what? Prostitutes. Although many came to the profession by other means, it was not uncommon for a courtesan to enter into an arranged long-term liaison by contract with a wealthy benefactor. These contracts were written up by and witnessed by lawyers and were binding. Most included some provisions for financial welfare for the courtesan beyond the end of the relationship in the form of an annulled, right? Or annul the marriage, right? Many such women became so powerful socially and financially that they could be particular about the men they associated with. In other words, they chose the paramour as would any other mistress, not the other way around. Wealthy benefactors would go to great lengths to court a courtesan as a prize, the ultimate goal being a long-term contract as a mistress. Occasionally, courtesans were passed from one benefactor to another, thereby resulting in them being viewed in social societies as lower than both their benefactors and those of wealth and power with whom they would socialize. Often, in instances of this sort, if the courtesan had satisfactorily served a benefactor, that benefactor would when ending the affair, pass them on to another benefactor of wealth as a favor to the courtesan, or set them up in an arranged marriage to a semi-wealthy benefactor. In the event that the courtesan had angered or dissatisfied a benefactor, they would often find themselves cast out of wealthy circles, returned more often than not to the street of prostitution. what do you see a lot? And I'm not saying this, I'm not ragging on the women. But if you listen to this, this is history. Are men not doing this now? And things have been messed up because the thought process of men now is that you can turn a courtesan into an empress, and the highest they can go is to a mistress. See, there's three tiers of different types of women, and this confuses the women that are being raised to be wives because they're not trying to do that. They want the admiration or the respect, but the attention is always going to the courtesans or the thoughts or the hoes or whatever you want to say. But I like to say courtesan because we're trying to be politically correct around here. So we're going to use these old words. So the courtesan is trying to be the mistress. She's trying to get to the mistress status of financial stability. Now, here's the thing. There wasn't a lot of them running around because then they were prostitutes. There was a lower form. She started off in prostitution, but she could be better, right? This is a top tier prostitute, an escort, a socialite, a Kim Kardashian, for that matter. Now, who caused this? Now, what did you saw that would happen? If she angered her benefactor or her sugar daddy, right? Right? Because being a sugar baby, you're a courtesan. There's a contract. There's a mutual agreement. You go through a mediator, which is a website, to take a percentage off the cut of you paying your membership if you're going to get a sugar baby. And then, or you go, or you're dealing through contract through these back page websites or what have you, like these guys in Dubai that fly out. They fly these Instagram women out and they go through what they're going to do for whatever price it is because they can pay it, right? But she had to keep her mouth shut. She could not anger him. But if she was a high enough status, she would have other men vying for it. And then when she got older and she couldn't do it anymore, or she wanted to get out the game, she would try to be a mistress. But he could not marry the courtesan per se or bring her in per se, depending on if her status was high enough. If she was around too many other men, or she was with the enemy, or whatever she was doing, he would marry her off to a person that was a lower status, a courter, basically. If she did not do what she said, and she angered him so much, then she would be exiled back into the state of prostitution at a lower standard than what she was. Or she would basically grab her things and go and move to a different area. Those from wealthy backgrounds, either by birth or marriage, and who were acting as courtesans only for the social and political advancement of themselves and or their spouses. Think about it. A courtesan was married. Were generally treated as equals. They were more respected by their extramarital companions, both placing one another's family obligations ahead of the relationship and planning their own liaison or social engagement around the lover's marital obligations. Sound like the side chick. Sound like me and Mrs. Jones. Sound like a midnight train to Georgia. Sound like part-time lovers with Stevie Wonder. Affairs of this sort would often be short-lived, ending when either of the courtesan or the courtesan or the courtesan's spouse received the status or political position desired, or when the benefactor chose the company of another courtesan and the compensated the former companion financially. In instances like this, it was often viewed simply as a business agreement by both parties involved. The benefactor was aware of the political or social favors expected by the courtesan, i.e., Louis bags, i.e., took it down on the red carpet, i.e., Instagram followers jumping from 10K to 150 to 300,000, being able to be flown out and making more money and passed around like a blunt, i.e., the courtesan was aware of the price expected from them for those favors to be carried out, and the two met one another's demands. I'm taking you out on these flights. We going shopping. I'm paying your bills. I come in the house and you gonna not tell me that you got a headache. We doing all kinds of diabolical Sodom and Gomorrah Babylonian type of things that's going on down in here. This ain't me just talking and you dictate to me that you're not, because my wife can do that because she has a powerful family. So I can't treat her like a hoe. I can't make her lick milk out of the cat bowl. Or we understanding this? Hold on, let me check these things, right? Let me check these things. What's going on, Vonda? Oh, Sister Vonda, you gonna grab them? You gonna grab them pearls today? You gonna clutch them pearls? So now we got into that for the social standards and benefits. Now we're going to talk about the career length. In the latter centuries, from the mid-18th century on, courtesans would often find themselves cast aside by their benefactors, but the days of public execution or imprisonment based on their promiscuous lifestyle was over. So it wasn't cool being a hoe. Why would you publicly execute or imprison a courtesan? Because she didn't keep her mouth closed, or she got caught trying to jump up the economic ladder because she got scorned. I'm like, it was a messy business back then. Even though this was an understand norm, humans are humans. Men lie. Women lie. Men tell women, I'll save you from this. And then, he wasn't doing and following the cause because he was over there too much. He was lying to his wife and not handling his social responsibilities to the community or to whatever he was doing because he was rich and someone else handled that. And he was spending more time with the courtesan than he was actually spending with his own family and doing what he needed to do. And then she caught feelings. And then when she got too close and threatened to do whatever, a man of power is going to do what? Send her to the guillotine. And that's what happened. But they had to make a stop to that. So here we go. But the days of public execution or imprisonment based on their promiscuous lifestyle was over. Sounds like the Me Too movement. Sounds like the Believe Her. Sounds like hashtag sex workers work. There are many examples of courtesans who, by remaining discreet and respectful to their benefactors, was able to extend their careers into or past middle age and retire financially secure. Kathleen Waiters is a good example. By the late 19th century and for a brief period in the early 20th century, courtesans had reached a level of social acceptance in many circles and settings, often even to extend of becoming a friend and a confidant to the wife of the benefactor. Lord have mercy. Wow. See, here's the thing, and this is not saying anything against women, but, and this is, I want y'all to understand, I'm just saying what these are the facts. This was back in the day when women did not work per se in society or was not allowed to work per se in society to that point, but they did. Women worked, they had jobs, They were in the marketplace. They were seamstress. They was this. They was that. So let's not say that women never worked. They didn't have a job. They didn't have a place in society. But their place wasn't like it is now in the 21st century. Okay. So if a woman then, if she was a wife then, she's raising the children, she's raising the household, she's actually running the business, because most women then, if you were married in to a family or your family had this, they were taught to read, they were taught to count, they were your accountants, your bookkeepers. Women are very meticulous when it comes to detailed work. Women can sit there for hours and be laser focused. That's why you always see them in places like doing paperwork and HR and everything. Like, women are very good with very detailed work and being very detail orientated, especially when it comes to numbers and tracking things down. They're very good at it. Being advisors, they're very good at speaking to people and actually running things, because they have to raise and run children. They have to run a household. So this woman is doing this all day. And remember, childbirth back then ain't like it is now. A woman really back then risked her life. So after she done spit not one male child, because you want a male heir back then, not two male child, but if you had three male childs, or you had a male and you had a daughter and whatever, you ain't trying to be baby number 5, but you know what it is that this man is doing, and you don't want him doing X, Y, and Z. So you would rather him get his wilds off, but make sure he takes care of the family, because at the end of the day, this is for what the family. And don't best believe she had a little side piece too, because we already discussed that earlier in the chat, in the conversation. So this was understood, because this is human nature. This is what it is. I'm only telling you what the human nature is of society and what it's actually going back to. Now, for those of us that are 35 and over, we're going to witness this, but we may not, some of us may participate in it. But this is for the younger generation, because they have to reset some things in society because it's run amok. So let's get back into it. By the late 19th centuries, or the brief period of the 20th century, more often than not, a woman serving as a courtesan would last in the field only as long as she could prove herself useful to her companion or companions. Thus, of course, excludes those who served as courtesans but who were already married in high society. When referring to those who made their service as courtesans as their main source of income, success was based solely on the financial management and longevity. Many climbed through the ranks of royalty, serving as a mistress to lesser nobles first, eventually reaching the role of unofficial mistress to the king or prince. If you want yourself a high value man, the king and the prince, that's the top 1% in society. The $100,000, the 6-figure man is the top 10 to 1% in society. Not all women are going to be able to access that man. So it's a vie for supremacy. But listen what I'm saying. These women that are doing that, not the women that are just trying to live their life, get married, have kids. Now you notice that I'm talking about courtesans, right? Higher society, lords, noble, courtiers, higher society, right? Duchesses and things of that ilk, right? People, this is higher 5-figure and past that problems that these people would have back then, that they had to work it out. But even in regular society, this was also known to people that had some money and some wealth. If you broke, if you Tyrone, if you poor, you ain't got time to be dealing with no courtesans. You're dealing with prostitutes. Or you're dealing with a woman that's about her stuff and she's getting it going. You're not at that financial level. Remember, you have to provide, if you have to incentivize, if you can't pay to play. And the point of paying was it's time, money, and it's already done. It's better than going out there messing with somebody's wife, per se, and getting yourself walked up on with a glove and challenged to a duel. This was a way, because that society was close, was small. You don't mess with another man's woman, that's his wife or something like that. So guess what would happen? You'd be challenged to a duel. Swords or pistols. 10 paces. Turn and fire. So these are all the famous courtesans. This is the 17th century. We're talking about 5th BC. Like, this is a long list of famous hoes. 18th, 19th century. Look at this. 1800s. One died in the 50s. I think this was the one died, the Spanish courtesan. This one died in 1965. So let's say about this, right? This era of courtesan went away. The last one in 1965. Let's give a silent prayer. A moment of silence for one of the hoes. All right, that's enough. So, 1965, Spanish courtesan. Belo Antero. She's known. She's a known courtesan, right? So it's 1965. Think about that for a second. It's 2021. I'm 40. So that's 36, 46. You're born in 65, that's 56. That's 56 years old. If you was born the year that she died, that's 56 years old. And she was almost 100 years of age. She was almost 100 years of age. She was 97 years old when she passed away. But it looks like a big list, but this is a short list. These are the cream. This is the creme de la creme, the top of the top. This is what hoes should aspire to, because they played the position. They knew what they needed to do. They knew their role in life. Not all women are built for this. This is a very niche group of women, but men engage in it. And I want the ladies that are listening to understand this. Whether it's legal or illegal, men engage in this. And I want the men to understand. Tricking has been going on since the beginning of civilization. Look at this. So that's the courtesy. Let me go check these things over here. Let's go. Man, I got to catch up on these things. Memorize other geisha. Let's see. Let's read this. Cutthroat here. Let's see what we want to say. Plastic like a plant. Okay. What's going on, educated areas? What's going on, bro? Let me read these comments here. The secret desires of a man. Most men have a Madonna complex until they grow up, and some never do. Let's see. They're already clutching them pearls. Aries, all right, Aries. Let's see. Hucks must keep their mouths closed, wives too, but for a different reason. Exactly. Basically, men don't like when women talk too much. You know that? You know that's right. Let's see. Here it is right here. Women are dying and having babies at home with no prescription drugs. I have a great grandmother who died due to childbirth and complications. This is fact. Medical technology has advanced a lot. Has advanced a lot. Hoes will always have a place in society because men love hoes. Thank you. See, Vonda has finally understood. I've been saying this. She's been clutching the pearls. I think I've been desensitizing our sister Vonda here. I'm trying to explain this will happen. The only reason why men don't mess with hoes like that, even when they get older, because it costs too much. It costs too much. And when I mean it costs too much is because the way society has made it is that if you get caught with a hoe and you got a wife, she can take half your stuff. So I better not get caught with a hoe and not even mess with her. And then you get to a certain age where you start to grow into your wife or your woman. And you, since you've been together so long, you start looking for companionship and not just, dropping it like it's hot. Plus, testosterone levels go down. You ain't worrying about having sex as much. It's not a thing. You more learn on the mental aspect. And a lot of these men, it wasn't really about the sex after a while. It was about the aspect of the relationship of feeling young again, of feeling someone actually caring, but he knows that the woman is actually playing her role and doing her job. That's her job. You see right here, because men have a tendency to deal with multiple women. It is what it is. It is what it is. They love Cleopatra. That's right, Shaw. Men love hucks because men are hucks, and men love themselves. Everybody, the men that can't be hucks are incels, and they are angry. That's right. That's why the articles of prostitution are back on the table. He said, Mata Hari, and she was a spy. Exactly. Exactly. Hold on a second. 97 years, 97 years Huts, it served her well. Those hoes were infamous, Jerry. Yes, they were. Thank you. If you look, thank you. There's rule. Here's the thing. Just like how men don't understand manhood, and we got to get that back into play, right? These hucks or these hoes or these courtesans don't understand the rules of the game, and there's no consequences for their actions when they get out of pocket, i.e. Stormy Daniels, right? I.e. a whole bunch of other things is going on. She was paid to shut up. She was a courtesan. She's supposed to get on the D. He's supposed to grab it, grab her by the pussy, and she got paid and she's supposed to shut up. The only reason why she was running her mouth because a group of other men put their money together to get her to open it. And somehow, some way, she wanted to be Melina. Now, Melina was a courtesan. Think about it. Melina Trump, the first lady of the United States of America, was a courtesan. It's not only did she went from being a courtesan to a mistress, she went from being a courtesan to a mistress to an empress. That's only the 1% of women can pull that off. Let's read this one. I have an older family member who was busted in prostitution still in the 60s, and his name made the paper in a small town. Of course, they didn't get divorced. Old school. Yeah, old school. These women are seductions. They make the man feel special. Some hoes claim not to even have much sex. They're selling a dream, and the men love to buy it if they can afford it. Exactly. It's the same thing. It's human nature. It's human nature. Let's see, DeAndre, have you ever read it like a hoe? Hucks, Louisiana style. You have to read it like a hoe. Okay. Yes, Melania Trump is the same. Tears expire. Didn't all the presidents of the U.S. have affairs with hosts? Yes, but he married his, but it took it to the White House. None of them married. JFK didn't marry old girl. They all have them. You know, they all have them. I think the only one that didn't have one was Obama, because he loved himself some Michelle. Michelle was like, because if you saw that woman he was trying to marry before, Lord Jesus, he loved him some Michelle, and Michelle would cut him. Michelle would cut him. She'd throw hot grits on him. You know. So we're gonna keep it moving. So we're gonna talk about the concubine real quick. We're gonna get into this real quick. Now, you know what I mean? But I wanted to break it on the courtesans because of the OnlyFans thing, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. All right. So a concubine is an interpersonal and sexual relationship between a man and a woman in which the couple does not want to or cannot enter a full marriage. When there is an inability or social discouragement for the couple to marry, it may be due to multiple factors such as difference in social rank, an existing marriage, religious or professional prohibitions, or a lack of recognition by appropriate authorities. What is the concubine, aka the mistress, aka the side bitch? Now this is now you may think this is better, right? But actually this is worse. Because the concubine has her own money, has her own status. She's probably even married, or she's not married at all. And she can't get married to the dude, but he has his own family. So he's not paying outright. He's not giving in exchange. There's not an exchange. There's not a legal documentation where there's a contract in certain cases. The term comes from Latin, concubintus, the institution in ancient Rome that regulated the cohabitation of free citizens who did not want to enter a marriage. So if you have a boyfriend, ladies, and you're living with this man in a situational ship, and you have children, and you have a household, and y'all paying bills, in ancient Rome, you would be considered a concubine because you are cohabitating. I'm just telling you what the word means and what it is. And men, she's not your wifey. She's a concubine because until you enter a marriage with this woman, she's not your wifey. She's a concubine. You're cohabitating. But we're going to continue to read. The cohabitation of free citizens who did not want to enter a marriage similar to modern day civil unions. From this traditional meaning found in Roman law comes the contemporary usage of concubinage as a synonym for civil union, used in legal context. In some countries, such as France, concubinage is the official name given by the law to civil unions. Concubinage or concubine has existed in all cultures. Through the prevalence of concubinage and the rights and expectations of the person involved have varied somewhat, as have the rights of the offspring born from such relationships. A relationship of concubinage can take place voluntarily due to the lack of parties involved to enter into a full marriage, or involuntarily, i.e. slavery. In slave-owning societies, most of the concubines were slaves, often called slave concubines. Such concubines was practiced in a patriarchal culture throughout history. When these men run around with these, having red pill rage, and they talk about the gynocracy and the matriarchy, and we want to bring the patriarchy back. This is what they're talking about. But there was responsibilities. There was things in place. And a lot of the time, these men don't have the integrity to implement what needs to be implemented because they're running off of their fifis and their feelings. This is a way to keep society intact. Whenever the status and the rights of the person involved, they are always inferior to those of a legitimate spouse. And typically the rights of inheritance are limited or excluded. So here's the thing. You're a mistress. You have an affair with a man that's got a woman that's married, whether she know it, she don't know it, whether you come to a legal and obligated agreement, a sub fourth or whatever, whether you live in the house, you're the second, the first, the third, the fifth sister wife, or whatever it is. That woman that's the first wife has more higher prestige than you unless she passes. Then when that man dies, which will happen because men live less than women, unless you tucked her away in a will somewhere, she still has the authority back then, whatever, to kick you out and you don't get shit. So that's why the courtesan was trying to make it up to mistress status. Because the courtesan will be younger than whom? Or the courtesan would try to make it up to concubine status because she would be younger than the empress. And if the empress passed, her job was to secure her line of lineage, because when the emperor passed and the empress passed, she was the next in line. That's why she would spit out a kid quickly as possible. In the past, women involved in concubinage was referred to as concubine, concubege, and concubine, and the man as lover or patron, depending on the asymmetry of the couple, especially among royalty and nobility. The woman in such relationships was commonly described as a mistress. In present-day English, the term concubine typically refers either to sex slave or mistress. Let's say it again. Sex slave or mistress. Concubine, sex slave, or mistress. I'm going to say it for the people in the back. Concubine, sex slave, or mistress. Okay, so ancient Near East, Mesopotamia, Egypt, in Europe, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, Vikings, early Christianity and feudalism, Spain, from the age of enlightenment until today, Asia, China, Mongols, Japan, Korea, Rajasthan, in the Abrahamic religions, in Judaism, ancient Judaism, modern Judaism, Islam, in the Arab world, pre-modern, modern, in the Americas, Brazil, United States, concubines and slavery. Like, basically, all throughout civilization, these women have existed, whether the civilization said it was cool, whether it was an inner working, whether it was openly known, it has existed and it's not going away. I don't think Hebrew Israelite is a recognized thing right now. So I don't think that's there, but I think somebody needs to edit that. Just saying, right? The Mormon thing is a part of Christianity. So that's already goes into that, right? So this explains all of these things. Y'all can go look these up. Y'all can go look these up because it breaks it down all the way around. Right? The courtesan, he had his wives and his concubines and stuff like that. All these emperors, Abrahamic religions, Islam, Arab world, with the harem, with the virgins, 72 virgins and stuff. Now, they had it in Canada. Largely unrecognized by modern courts, concubinage is the formal position of a mistress, maintain a religiously sanctioned partnership with a man to whom she is not wed. has a varied history when it appeared in Canada. Good old Canadians up there. In the 18th, 19th century in Italy, Siscobio, or the Cavalier Savante, was the man who was the professed gallant or lover of a woman married to someone else. With the knowledge and consent of the husband, attended his mistress at public entertainments. So men were concubines too. See, ladies, listen, when I bring out the articles of prostitution on the table, it's not just for men. It's for you too. That's right. That's right. Ain't nobody said y'all had to just sit up there and take it, because this is what's going to happen. I'm just in my DeLorean and in my crystal ball, and I'm telling you this is what's going to happen. Now, for our generation, we probably not be involved in that, but I'm telling you this is what's going to happen for future generations. This is where the world's going, making you, desensitizing you to sex work, knowing what a prostitute is, knowing to point them out, knowing that you can't publicly shame them for that, understanding that mistresses will do that, courtesans or courters, right? Because it's not just going to be a courtesan, it's a quarter. Like y'all say, the hobosexuals. Or you see these women with money and power and influence keep marrying these younger dudes. Like J-Lo did it a whole bunch of times. Madonna does it all the time. Matter of fact, look at Jada Pinkett Smith. She had an entanglement. She had an entanglement with August. Remember that? That and Will dealt with it because she got needs, and he know who he married because he's a quarter himself. It's not like he ain't out here slinging yike. Actors and actresses are what? Quarters. Musicians are what? Bards. Bards are what? Quarters and courtesans. That's why they switch off partners like it ain't nothing to do. I'm like, this gets very, very deep. This gets very, very deep. Cohabitation is an arrangement where two people are not married but live together. They are often involved in a romantic or sexual intimate relationship on a long-term or a permanent basis. Such as arrangements have become increasingly common in Western countries since the late 20th century. Why is that? Why is that? Are they not doing the same thing? If you're a man and you cohabitate with a woman and you're not married to her and you are building something, but you're not married to her, then guess what? She's a concubine, right? And you are a cavalier servant to her. Going to say that sounds great, doesn't it? Like how I said that, cavalier servant, right? Sounds great, right? Pretty much, you're a professional side dude, like I was at one time. No, you're not a side dude, but you're a male concubine. So instead of saying that, I'm gonna call you a cavalier servant. You just call her concubine. Sounds great, but it's both sides, right? Let's talk about common law marriage, also known as non-ceremonial marriage. Souleris mariage. Informal marriage, or a marriage by habit and repute, is legal framework where a couple may be considered married without having a formal registered their relation as a civil or religious marriage. So basically, you never did the contract, but y'all been together so long. This is called common law marriage. This was to protect women that never got married, or the paperwork was lost, or they got with another man, and they never went to the courthouse, never did the paperwork, never did that. They've been taken care of. They got a whole family, they got kids, and then his estate need to be passed down so she ain't out there on the street. looking stupid. Not all states impose this. The Colingum was a tax first imposed in England and France around the pontificate of Urban II, and thereafter as part of a drive towards clerical celibacy. It was a tax levied by the state on mistresses kept by clergymen. This was ostensibly to discourage the keeping of such mistresses a practice officially. Basically, Pasa had side bitches. Pasa had side bitches. I say it again. Pasa had side bitches. And the Catholic Church came up with this to levy a tax in England and France. They levied a tax to discourage you, to de-incentivize men from having side bitches, especially clergymen, because it was practiced. That means clergymen had what? They had wives. And if they couldn't have wives, they needed to get it off. Well, guess what? I can't do it. So then guess what? A man is still a man. So he's going to have sex with the nuns, or he's going to have sex with the little boys. And then did you not hear the Pope talking about bringing back marriage back into the Catholic religion for the priests to curb that, to de-incentivize that behavior? For them having sex with a, okay. So we're going to talk about the next one. A cut queen is a wife of an adulterous husband and the gender opposite of a cuckold. In evolutionary biology, the term is also applied to females who are investing parental effort in offspring that are not genetically their own. Similarly, priding with family. So if you got a dude and you know he running around here cheating on you, cut queen, just like a dude knows his wife cheating on him and sitting there, knows about it, whatever, you're a cuckold. If you're not the one doing it, remember, adulteress. Now, remember, this is adulteress. Like, you know that they are sleeping around with someone else. It's not, and you know that they're doing it, but you're not doing it. You're not engaging in it. Remember, it goes away if you're both engaging in it. Let's talk about free union. A free union is a romantic union between two or more persons without legal or religious recognition or regulation. I don't believe in straight marriages. I don't believe in blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? My conscious mind. Pro-blackness. Whole tapping for pussy. This is what these niggas always talk about, but this is a free union. But the thing about free is there's no regulation on it. That means the person that you're involved with romantically or whatever, it's only a one-sided affair. Okay, we're going to talk about harm. Properly refers to the domestic spaces that are reserved for women of the house in a Muslim family. This private space has been traditionally understood as serving the purpose of maintaining the modesty and the privilege and seclusion of women. Monogamy. Polygamy is the practice or custom of having more than one wife or husband at the same time. Polygamy is practiced by many cultures throughout history. Morganatic marriage, sometimes called a left-handed marriage, is a marriage between people of unequal social rank, which in the context of royalty or the inherent title prevents the principal position or privileges being passed to the spouse or any children born of the marriage. So old dude that married old girl in England, that was pretty much a left-handed marriage. Extramarital sex occurs when a married person engages in sexual activity with someone other than their spouse. Polygamy is the practice of marrying multiple spouses when a man is married to more than one wife at the same time. Scientologists call this polygamy. And when a woman is married more than one husband at a time, it's called polyandry. Polymorph is the practice or desire for the intimate relationships with more than one partner with the informed consent of all partners involved. People who identify as polyamorous may believe in open relationships with a consensus management of jealousy and rejecting the view of sexuality. Polygamy is the most common and accepted form of polygamy, entailing the marriage of a man with several women. Then you have slavery in the United States was a legal institution of human chattel slavery comprising of enslavement primarily of Africans, of African Americans, and that is extant. In America founding in the 1776 until the passage of the 13th Amendment in 1865. And continental was the quasi-marital relationship between a free citizen and a slave, or between two slaves in ancient Rome. A slave involved in such relationship was called a concubine. So, if you notice how those words, this word goes back and it makes concubine over there, then you see how it works. Now, I'm not going to too much talk about the Empress because we all know what that is, because most women seek to be a wife. Most women want to be a wife, right? And most men want to be a husband. And for whatever reasons, but we have lost sight of that. Back in ancient times, and I'm going to wrap this up here with this couple of things, is back in ancient times, or in certain cultures in the modern day era, when a boy was a couple of years from coming of age, he did this. They had a meeting between the families. He met his betrothed or his wife to be. She was about the same age. They didn't get married until I guess she had a period, until he was questioning manhood, which was maybe about 15, 16, 18, 19, 20. Who knows when it was, depending on, what era, what culture, what it was, right? He's married now. That's why in a lot of societies, the christening of the marriage or the union of the marriage was him actually penetrating the woman on her marriage night, and her chastity, her virginity was the things to uphold, because you had to make sure she was a virgin because she was a wife. Now, if I'm saying that there were women running around being wives and such and this, and then we're talking about mistresses and we're talking about courtesans and concubines, the wife came first. The boy was raised to be a husband. The girl was raised to be a wife first. The courtesans were always around. They knew that the highest they could reach was mistress status. But the mistress came later. The courtesan was the practicing for young men to do what they needed to do, to get to where they needed to get to. The prostitute, the whatever. You didn't have them raging because they got that out of the way. But those were a select group of women that were placed in a certain vessels of society that needed to be there, because men are men at the end of the day. And the more that you suppress that desire, that whatever, the more it's going to be worse. I'm just letting you ladies know. I'm just telling it like it is, and I'm letting you men know. This is how it gets, and this is how it goes down. You're going to see in the next couple of years that just like anything else with anything, it's about how the presentation, the desensitizing you to it. The Instagram, the OnlyFans, the access to porn, all of these things like this. But when men see things like that, they want to actually do it. They want to actually do it physically. And then if they don't have access to that, you're going to see all this incel rage and these shootings because they're awkward. So if you have these select group of women, these sex workers, right, to deal with these type of men, and if I can have sex with this woman and she's pretty, and I know I'm paying because all men pay for it, either way or whatever, then I can learn how to talk. I can learn how to understand. I can learn how women nature is, and I can I can segregate what is a courtesan, what is a concubine, and what is an empress. And that's the problem with a lot of men. They don't know how to differentiate between the two, between the three. And back then, the wife, then the concubine. But the courtesan was always there. And this is a problem between men. And unfortunately, a lot of times women are usually the quote unquote, how should I say it? Collateral damage. Because you need to build a nation, you need people. And everybody has their places in society, but this is where it's going. These men of money and power go through rigorous screening to get a virtuous wife only to lay up with dirty hoes. Yes. Yes. Because men love hoes, Vonda. Men love hoes. Sorry to tell you this, but this is a fact. The virtuous wife is to be shown off, is to run the household, and to do that. The 80-20 rule. But men love hoes. As my wonderful brother Jay Sean says, clean ratchets. They got to be clean though. It's only when men become in a maturation process of their mind and understand what is not a, what is understandable. Like what I mean what is understandable is that relationship that you have with the person that you're with. The relationship of understanding that this takes precedence over that. The relationship of because your wife is not going to do every single thing. Your wife is not going to do, what I'm saying? And it's this other thing. This is just what it is. This is how men operate and this they think. If you was to ask a man his honest opinion or his honest thoughts with no judgment or no nothing, then he would tell you. And if you don't believe me, his actions are speaking for him. These Instagram models, they're being flown out. These women that are up here. Why is the Cardi B's, the Nicki Minaj's, the Madonnas, these other women? Why are these women? You know what I'm saying? Like Janet. Remember Janet? Janet was on, but when she did that picture with a dude holding the titties and she got her hands up, that took the cake. Janet was up there. The sexual revolution was just a suppression of suppressing that. It was the unveiling and it was the reinstitution of openly being courtesans for those that wanted to prescribe to that. And that is a loud minority. That's not all women. Most women want to be wives. They want to be respected. They want to be mothers. They don't want to do that. There's a select group of women that want to be courtesans. And the women that a lot of them don't even want to be courtesans, but because that's what they may have to do to secure whatever they're going to secure. So there's a minute women that just love being hoes. But majority of those women in that tinge don't want to be hoes. That's the only way, because maybe they didn't come from a certain social status. Maybe they didn't have the framework or the background that they necessarily needed. Say, leave Penny out of there. And the problem is that because everything's all jumbled, you have women that want to get the attention of men, because before it was men that would bring these two together. The family would be brought together. It was the community and the family that would bring these two together. So wives and husbands, and there was a balance there. Remember, when you courted a woman back in the day, there was you had to get through a brothers, you had to get through a father, you had to get through sisters. It was a whole family affair. So no one slipped on some penis. Or no one slipped into some vagina. Oh, dude, slipped into vagina. This is where shotgun marriages came from. Because if you got this girl pregnant and she was only messing with you, we already knew who the father was because she was only messing with you. So guess what you gonna do? Since you wanted to do the act of a married person without getting married, now you're gonna be married. But that did not change the dynamic, because that woman know I'm in this relationship. Now we know why things change. We know why the pretext or the good intentions of no fault divorce, but we cannot look at the fallout of no fault divorce and why we have to circle jerk and come back into a society where, guess what? Men are going to be men, women are going to be women. So we have to allow certain things to happen, because if these men are too suppressed, they're going to start suppressing you, and they're going to start suppressing you in society. So you're going to have to choose. Do you want the freedom of chaos? Or do you want leadership, rule, and constraints? Laws will be passed sooner than later. If a man gets caught dealing with a sex worker and he's married, you're not going to be able to divorce him. It's coming. It's coming because she's doing a job. You would have to prove that he's having a marital affair. And if the man is exchanging money for whatever he's doing, she's doing a job. If you don't believe me, they already did it in Japan. It's a law. Can't because she is a worker. She's providing a service. You would have to prove that she's not a sex worker. And then you would have to go on the lines of that. It's going to evolve to the point where it's going to go back to the old days and modern day era. I'm sorry, but I'm just telling you what it is, what's happening. Men are men, women are women, people are people. Now, this doesn't mean, but that goes on the back end, because if you're making your money and you're strong and you're independent, you got your own money, and he's not giving you what you desire, what's going to happen is that if you go and purchase some grade A August entanglement, you know what I'm saying, penis, then he can't divorce you. This is where society's going. I hope y'all understand this was not me ragging on anything. This is just me telling the truth. We're having these conversations about, oh, these chicks need to go pay for this, that, and the third. No, this is not nothing to celebrate at the same time. The OnlyFans thing has basically edged out a status. You cannot no longer sit on Instagram, twerk, and get money for twerking and doing that, and then go into the office and expect someone to respect you, because the Me Too thing is over. The blurred lines is over. The battering ram is over. So you going to have to pick a poison. You either going to have to carry yourself like an empress, or a courtesan. And an empress can be a concubine, and a courtesan can be a concubine. But it's very hard for a courtesan to be an empress. And it's really hard for an empress to become a concubine. This is where things are going. This is where society is. I hope that this was informative. But once again, you have the freedom to disagree with me or agree with me or make your own thoughts or processes about this. And I appreciate, anything that you have to say. Please like and share the stream. Let me go in here and look at my brand thing right here. Let me do my thing here. Let me do my jig. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody that came through. Tomorrow, it will be Shar and Ruby and our sister Vonda over there on the Just Ask Shar Advice channel. Please check them out tomorrow. They'll be having a discussion. I think the Honorable Archbishop Pimp Greasy may stop by and give his 2 cents. He was by last week. He was, he had a sermon, he wanted to do Tuesday Pimpable study, the Pimp Bible study, you know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to say a few words of that. And I thank everybody for coming through. Shar, while we're still here, can you drop the channel? Go ahead and drop the link to your channel right there. Thank everybody for coming through. We got 16 likes. Thanks for the shares. Thanks for the people in the clouds. You know what I'm saying? And if you're watching in the clouds, just feel free. We're not, no one's going to bite, in the chat. Feel free to say what's up, say hi, so we know that you're in the clouds and that you're watching. They will be singing. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. So what I'm going to do here, what I'm going to do here is for the back end of this, what I'm saying, while I type in the chat and thank everybody for coming and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Play some tunes on the way out. Gotta be very careful what tunes you play for YouTube give you that work. So I'm gonna talk to y'all in the chat before we end the stream.